Hi everyone, this is Letriana Brown and I'm here with Family Spirit. I know the chat room is buzzing. Everybody's excited because you know who I have on the show tonight. We have Mark Phiilips, the executive producer of My Ghost Story. That's right. Everybody knows how I'm totally addicted to My Ghost Story. So we have Mark tonight. I would like to remind you that you can go to your Android phone or your iPhone or on your computer and download Spreaker and listen to our show that way, or go to iTunes. Also, I would like to welcome and ask for the Paranormal Australia, China, Scotland, Ireland, Paranormal or Paranoid Hawaii, that's a funny name, Paranormal or Paranoid Hawaii, UK, Entity Seekers of France, Unnormal Paranormal Canada, and all of the United States paranormal family to help us welcome the executive producer of My Ghost Story, Mr. Mark Phiilips.
I'm here.
Everybody in the chat room say hey. They're all clapping.
I'm here. It's 6:10 California time. I have a nice glass of red wine to keep me going through your show.
Okay, well, I've got my wine cooler, so there you go. They're all saying hi and woohoo. They're happy to have you. We got a little echo bounce going, so we'll get that straight in just a minute. Just hold tight. Okay, Mark, I want to thank you for being with us tonight, and we've been looking forward to this. We've been advertising that you're going to be on the show for about, well, ever since we found out. I've just been plastering it all over the place. And Mark, for me, ever since I was a little girl, and I had my little record player, there's nothing like a good ghost story.
Right.
I could remember just getting in my blanket, and playing ghost stories like The Man with the Golden Arm and, Bloody Fingers and all of that. And, but as I grew up, there was nothing like a real ghost story. And that's what you do, and you bring so many stories to life. My story, real quick, is that I'm fourth generation ghost hunter. My great-grandmother started this. And I've got tales after tales after tales that have been passed down in journals from my family. So I think that's why I love your show so much, because you are documenting these people's, experiences.
Well, what makes it work is that these are very personal stories, and they're just, ordinary, everyday folk who have had these experiences happen to them, and fortunately they've somehow captured some, what we refer to as evidence on tape or pictures or EVPs, whatever it might be. And they come on the show and they tell their story, and it's their story. And because it happened to them, the experience is very telling and very emotional, and some are just downright scary. Though sometimes it's spiritual as well. But that's the heart of what makes My Ghost Story work. Obviously, the fact that we show this evidence, and that has a great deal to do with it. That's a pretty high bar for any other show to surpass. But for me, it comes down to, if I see another show that features a ghost investigation group sticking an instrument into a dark corner of a house, I want to scream and shove a steel pipe up my nose. I'm just like OD'd on it. So there again, that's what makes our show unique. It's different. It's different. It's not a ghost hunting show. It is a sort of a documentary style show of real people's experiences.
What I like so much about it is that it's not about a person or a group, like you said. It's about your viewers. It's obvious that you love your viewers, and you make them look great, and you make their stories alive, you know, and everybody knows that. Everybody knows you love your viewers. And I think that's why you have so many devoted fans. I'm sure of that. In fact, I've done my research about that. We'll get to that in just...
We are the #1 rated show on A&E Bio.
Oh, I know that. That's why I love it so.
And the audience level is 136% higher than the average A&E Bio show. So that gives you some indication of how popular the show is.
Oh, well,
and here's the big news, is that we have been moved to Friday night.
Oh, yes. That's awesome.
We were on Saturday nights. Well, no, you know, there's two different ways to look at this. What's happening is that Bio is enlarging their paranormal footprint. So not only are they going to have paranormal shows on Saturday night, they're also going to have them on Friday nights. And they moved us because we're the top-rated show, so we are the tent pole, the beachhead, so to speak, of the new paranormal night, which is Friday nights. And there's going to be a lot of promotion associated with it.
Well, that's a really big deal, because everybody else, you know, that was interested in the paranormal, all the other paranormal shows, like, oh, I like this one. Oh, well, I think I'll watch that one too. Oh, I like that one too. And everybody kind of was on each other's sled, you know. Well, but you can stand on your own on Friday night.
We're going to be on Friday nights, and
that's awesome.
It actually started on Friday nights, I think 2 weeks ago. So your audience can now find us on Friday nights. We start at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and brand new episodes start airing on October the 5th. And I believe the first night they're going to have like 2 new episodes, and there's a whole bunch of new ones that we've done, and they're really, really good shows.
Okay, so you just made a guy named John really, really, really happy in the chat room. He's going, yes, 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 yes. And so is everybody else.
I thought your introduction was interesting. You were naming all of these foreign paranormal stations. I don't know if you know this, but the shows that we produce here for the American market are shown all over the world. I mean, all over the world. They're seen in Southeast Asia. They're seen in Japan. They're seen in Australia. They're seen in New Zealand. They're seen all over Europe, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Israel. It's seen in certain countries in Africa. I mean, it's really taken off for A&E all over the world, to the point where they have actually done a format of My Ghost Story in Southeast Asia. It was made out of
oh my gosh!
It was made out of Singapore, and I haven't seen it yet. I know it's aired and it did pretty well, and they're going to be doing some more. But I'm not sure how much evidence they were able to get, or whether they had whether they had the budget to do it properly. And it was also done as a format in South America, like a Latino version of it, and it's done out of Buenos Aires.
There's a lady that's in the chat room asking, where can she see in Australia? Is it on pay TV or?
You know, I'm at a loss to tell her. I don't know.
Well,
but I will get that information for you, so you can stick it, send it to her.
Okay.
But she might want to know this, that we just had a crew come back from Australia, because in our current crop of shows did I tell you that it's moving to Friday nights at 8 o'clock? In our new crop of shows, we actually have on My Ghost Story stories from Australia.
Did you hear that, Melita? Stories from Australia. She's so excited.
The one that I saw, I've only seen one of them cut yet, and it's a very scary story out of a prison somewhere in Australia.
Oh, she's thrilled.
And that's great history too in the storytelling, because you may you may know, I'm sure that your chat room member there knows that many, many years ago there were many British prisoners that were sent to Australia when they first started populating this, wild and desolate place. And I guess in one of these prisons, there was some really violent stuff that happened, and there's a really interesting story there. We're also doing stories in England and Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Canada.
That's amazing.
So we now have, we've added some kind of, international stories into the mix. My original notion was to build episodes that were all international. And initially the network agreed, yeah, that's a good idea. But then they came back and said, you know what? Our feeling is that America is the biggest small town in the world, and I think it might work better if we just pepper international stories within Michael's story itself, which is what we're doing. When the network, they're marketing the folks at A&E, the A&E networks, in my opinion, are really the Rolls Royce of cable networks. You probably realize that it's A&E, it's History Channel, Lifetime, Bio, and Bio is sort of their newest one. So it's interesting for me to be involved in the building of a network. And as I explained to you earlier, now that we're the tentpole of Friday night, I'm really invested in helping build this network, and I'm proud to do it. The people are great.
I'm so happy for you.
They treat us great.
I'm happy for me. See, because I told you I'm addicted to my ghost story, so I'm happy for me. It started, I had the flu,
well, and
I had to stay home from work, and it was a marathon, and I watched it the whole day, and it's been that way for 3 years. I can't stop. I'm totally addicted.
They've been running the show also on Lifetime on Friday nights.
Yeah, that's what Cheryl was saying in the chat room.
Yeah, and
she's thrilled.
And then they also have been running them on A&E proper. It's actually I think the first Bio show that has gravitated to the larger A&E networks like Lifetime and A&E. Usually it's the other way around. For instance, if you watch Bio on Thursday nights, it's repeats of Dog the Bounty Hunter, which premiered on A&E. It used to be a channel where a lot of programming from A&E would find its second run. It's now becoming a force unto itself, and it's kind of interesting.
Well, Cheryl from the chat room wanted me to tell you that personal experience and case files are her favorites, and she believes that she's, it's not just her. She believes that she's sort of tired of just, investigation style shows. She likes personal experience and case file shows. And she does have a few that she likes, but that's why she is like me. She loves what you're doing. Let me tell
you how it started.
Well, that's what I was about to ask you. You read my mind.
I think they sent you my bio, and over the years I've done a lot of different kinds of shows, and I've done a lot of law enforcement shows. I really love doing law enforcement shows because I get along with law enforcement officers. I admire their work. I think that they don't get the kind of recognition that they need. And I had done this. I've been doing the show called SWAT USA for Court TV, which is now True TV. And there was a show on at the time on NBC called To Catch a Predator. And they came to me and said, "Is there some way that you could do some kind of internet sex crime sting show for us?" I said, "Sure." So I went out into the law enforcement community to some contacts that I had, and said, "Can we do something like this?" And they just wanted to strangle me because law enforcement hates that show. I don't know if you remember, but it was special editions of Dateline on NBC. And what they would do is they would they would lure a guy who wants to have sex with a 13-year-old girl into a house.
Oh, yes.
And then they would bust him, but the bust was really just a newsman who would then interview them. And law enforcement officers hated it because their first instinct is when they catch somebody who's doing that, they take him down to the floor, handcuff him, and drag him off to jail. That's as opposed to, interviewing him. And of course, interviewing him sets up a legal problem in getting them convicted, because it's the perfect way for someone to say, "Hey, I was lured for the purpose of a television show, and I didn't really do it," and it just puts it colors it in such a way that a jury would probably side with the predator. Mm-hmm. So to make a long story short, we did it the way the cops wanted to do it, and we arrested 15 predators, most of whom were convicted, one of whom was a cop. It was amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
It was an amazing show. It was one of the highest rated. It was called Inside Predator Task Force, one of the highest rated shows in Court TV's history. And it was dark. Oh, it was so dark, but great storytelling. And somebody at A&E saw it. And I got a call, and they said, "Gee, can you do something for us?" And I suggested doing something similar to Inside Predator Task Force, because Court TV was not going to pick up any more episodes, because they rebranded to what they now are called True TV, and they didn't want to do any more law enforcement. They wanted to get away from that. So my hard sought-after show kind of went away. Mm-hmm. And so what I pitched them was just, real people telling us their ghost stories, and they show us the evidence. And I forget what I called it. I did not call it My Ghost Story. I called it Hauntings Revealed. And I sent them some tape of some stories that I knew existed, and they saw it, and they passed on it. I said, no. And then in August of 2008, this would probably be 6 months later, I get a phone call from the network saying, "You know what? We've changed our mind. Can you do a special on this and deliver it to us by Halloween?" And I, of course, said, "Sure."
Of course.
Of course. And it's very, very difficult to take from the very beginning an hour of television. And bear in mind, you don't just deliver it by Halloween. You got to deliver it 2 weeks in advance so they can promote it and blah 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 blah.
Right.
Man! But I felt I just have to, do my best. And then they said to me, think of it as, but I think we want to call it My Ghost Story. And as soon as they said that, I thought, oh man, these guys are smart, because it's such great branding. Mm-hmm. My Ghost Story. And think of it as this.
Well, what is your favorite show of what you've done?
Oh, I don't, of everything in my career?
Well, of My Ghost Story. I mean,
I don't know.
Told us how you gave birth to this. You've got to have a favorite.
Well, actually, I haven't, because what they said to me was, think of it as this. Think of it as a bunch of people sitting around a campfire telling ghost stories, but they show their evidence. Uh-huh. So if you look these days at My Ghost Story on air, you'll see that it looks like the storytellers are. It looks like they're sitting in front of a dark, gloomy sky, and you can see on the lower right and the lower left of the screen, you can see sort of like an orange glow coming on and off, and that's the campfire. I mean, I literally took their advice and said, okay, that's how we should do it. But I didn't do that for the first one, because I didn't have time to kind of think it through. But we made it, and I didn't really have the right people involved in making it. And we delivered it, and in order to get the stories together, it was kind of low-hanging fruit that I picked. And it went on Halloween and got a great number. But the head of the network didn't like what it looked like.
Oh.
He just didn't like what it looked like. And he was right. as I was delivering it, I was going, these are okay stories, but this is not really what I want it to be. I don't have time to make it the way I want to make it. So the network, the exec that I reported to, sort of got down on hands and knees and said, listen, Mark thinks that it was difficult to deliver that fast. Let's have him do another special. So I brought in some other personnel to help me make it. And we made the second special look like what it does today. And again, they aired it. It went through the roof. And then they started ordering the series. So, as I always say, persistence and determination are omnipotent. To say my favorite show, I can't say that. I mean, I have lots of favorite stories.
Yeah,
because,
well,
every show has 5 or 6 stories in it, and I always think of my ghost story as a compendium of stories, and we as we say, we stack the show with different kinds of stories. If you watch my ghost story, you'll see that there's always a neat kind of variety of stories. There's stories that are, demonic. There are stories that are spiritual. There are stories that have some kind of interesting love connection to them.
That's the one I like. There was one of a lady that her husband had passed away. She met him singing, and he was playing piano, and her son or daughter had grown up and moved on, and there she was alone in that big home, and she really missed him. And she saw him downstairs playing piano, and she didn't really know what to do, and she just walked downstairs and sang with him, and then he just disappeared, and it just changed her life altogether. I think that's my favorite.
Well, that's a very interesting story. Now I'm going to give you a little secret. We are developing for Bio a spin-off of my ghost story, and it's called Love Never Dies.
Oh.
And if indeed that story came along, after I get this deal to do it, I haven't got the deal yet. I'm just still developing it. I would use that story. I remember that story.
Yeah. I cried. It was beautiful.
Love Never Dies is it's shot differently. It has a different look to it. It has a different sound to it. And the one story that we've done, which hopefully will convince the network that it's a worthy to be a series, we're going to put that story in the episode that runs on the Friday before Christmas in 2012. It'll be the premiere story in my ghost story, but it'll be called Love Never Dies. And it's a great story. It's a great story. If I remember correctly, the story is from South Carolina.
Really?
Yeah, the story's from South Carolina. It's a very nice African American family. When the mother died, they all sort of argued among themselves and didn't talk to each other, and they split up and went all their different ways. There were 4 siblings, and then lo and behold, near Christmas time, in the house that where she lived, which they captured all these interesting pictures and video and EVPs that they believe was their mother. So then the whole family gets together at the house, and they all look at these videos and stuff together, and they, it's like she brings the family back together again from beyond the grave. It's a very touching story.
That is beautiful.
I love that kind of story. It's all in the storytelling.
I totally agree. I don't like it exists, the negative, the demonic, or the benevolent, but I like the ones where, there's always something beautiful, something touching. I did an investigation, and a lady had committed suicide because her husband had been killed, and come to find out they had found each other, and they were living together. And I was, investigating, talking to the both of them. They had found each other, you know. Oh, it was so beautiful, you know.
You got any evidence?
Oh, sure.
Then you should come on the show and tell that story.
Oh, gosh, I cried. I was so happy. And the thing of it is, when I looked at the hotel where she committed suicide, her name was on the registry. I was able to prove everything. It was beautiful. Right. I cried. I didn't want to leave them, you know. They were beautiful.
Well, dude, I'm serious. If you have some evidence on that, you should give us a call.
Oh, well, thank you. I would love it.
Show. By the way, now that we're on the subject, if anyone in your audience has a terrific story where there is evidence, pictures, videos, EVPs, so forth and so on, even hard tactile evidence, which sometimes exists. For instance, your registry, that would be a piece of tactile evidence. Mm-hmm. They can reach us two different ways. They can go to the bio website, and there's a link there where they can submit their story to us.
Okay, chat room, are you hearing this? Because the chat room is blowing up, Mark. I need to tell you some of the things that is being said. Hold on just a second.
Can I just say the second way they can reach us?
Sure. That's one of the questions. How do they submit? They
go to the bio website, and there's a link to submit a story. They got to go to the bio website, find my ghost story, and then go to the link that
I'm typing it
in. Or they can reach us directly at myghostory@mppt.tv. One more time. myghostory@mppt.tv.
Okay, I typed it in.
That's a direct link to my research, my research department.
Okay, I just typed that in for them. Okay, let's see. Okay. The lady from Australia is just thrilled. Ryan says, cheers from England. We love your show. And Cheryl says, cheers from California. I think we love you more. Mark, you are the bomb in England. And then I had to tell him, hold on, I'll tell him in a minute, because they were, really starting to take over the show.
Well, you should tell them that I'm English.
Oh, that's right. You knew that, right?
I was born in Bishop Auckland, County Durham, England.
Mm-hmm. And you're a captain, right?
No, I'm not a captain.
I thought you were. I thought you were military.
No. Captain Mark Phiilips is the man who married Princess Anne.
Oh, okay.
I got that growing up all the time. They were saying, did you marry Princess Anne? Did you marry Princess Anne? No, I didn't.
You could say, of course I did. Okay, hello from Massachusetts. My ghost story, wondering how I can submit. So I've already told you. Genevieve Lopez, honey, you don't forget to submit the way that I posted at the bottom. Ryan says that he was on my ghost story and they treated me really nice and I had a great time. And let's see if there's anything else. I think that's all. But they are really having a blast in the chat room. So did you know that my producer sent 10 stories and people to you through Chris Sanders, and they all made the show?
Who's that? Who's saying that?
Kevin DeMaria.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Good, yeah. I mean, when we see a good story, maybe your audience would like to know the process of how it happens.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, I've noticed that everyone is very polished and well-spoken on your show. And I know that you're going through a process with them.
Yeah, well, the process
through Skype and everything like that, making sure everything's scripted. So that's why they look so fantastic.
Yeah, we once we find what we think is an interesting story with interesting evidence and that has some kind of, historical sense to it, or a spiritual sense, or a family sense, a love sense, an animal thing, we then ask them we send them a list of questions, which we have them answer either on Skype or they turn their flip phone on and their flip camera on, and they send us the tape. So we have a sense of what they look like and if they're good storytellers. And 99% of the time, they are. Sometimes there's been instances where people have turned up. I'll get into that later. Let's put a pin in that, and you ask me. The process. So then we fly them out here to Los Angeles, and we put them up at a nice hotel. We have cars that take them back and forth to the studio. When they get to the studio, they're handled by a story producer and our makeup people and our audio people. We take them one by one and we put them in the studio. We sit them in a very special chair, which I'm looking at right now. It's in my office. We call it the ghost chair. And you don't really see the chair on camera. Sometimes you do when we do that, that big crane shot at the end.
Right.
But we sit them in the studio, and the producer sits on the other side of the cameras. We shoot it with two cameras, and the cameras are all. You'll notice that they're always moving. So when we cut the two cameras together in the edit room, it's sort of jerky and shaky, which that's what lends to the sometimes the scariness of it.
Yeah, it makes it the anticipation.
That's what I learned doing the second special. By the way, that's what I.
The MTV zoom.
No, it's not. It's not MTV at all. What it is, it's actually breaking the paramount rule of filmmaking, which is crossing. We call it crossing the line, where you don't.
Oh yeah.
Where you don't cross the 90-degree line when cutting between two shots. We do it all the time. And we do it because it makes it scarier. Anyhow, we then once we have that in the can, when they come to the studio, they bring their evidence with them, even though we've already seen it, but we've seen it sort of over the internet. And we digitally record it, and then we give it back to them. And then a few weeks later, we have a field producer who flies out to the actual location and spends a day or a day and a half shooting what we call point-of-view B-roll. It's not reenactment. It's just footage that exists at the place where this event took place. And that really helps build out the nature of the story. And then we send all that footage. We send all that footage back to here in Los Angeles, where we have very, very talented editors cut it all together, along with sound design. If you watch our show, you'll and listen to it, you'll see that it has stem to stern 100% of the time. There's always great sound design going on, music, sound effects, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that's the nature.
I went to school for theater, so I picked up on some of that too. Another reason why I'm a big fan.
It's very complicated. It's not a simple show to do.
No, it's not.
But that's one of the fact that we go all over the country and now all over the world. That's one of the things that makes this show unique, because in any episode you can pop from Boston to St. Augustine to San Diego to Colorado in any one episode, and that's also part of the. I told you earlier about how we stack the show with different kinds of stories. That's another thing we do. Is we try to make sure that in any one episode you're going to 5 or 6 different locations as well,
and you mix it up. If you've got a scary one, I noticed the next one's kind of a chaser. It's not so bad, It's a little less. Gotcha. It's a little less than that,
Hey guys, can I just jump in here a second?
Yeah.
Mark, I gotta tell the audience. I did a My Ghost Story segment with you guys, and let me tell you something. I was treated unbelievably great from the moment I was accepted to the show to the moment I got off the plane and picked up by one of your crew, brought to the hotel, shown places that are really good to eat. Then they took me to the studio, and it's an incredible place. It's like the Disneyland of studios, and we had just a blast. The people were great to us.
Did I meet you?
I don't think you did. I don't think you did, but it was an experience of a lifetime. And I got to tell anybody in the audience.
I'd be the guy walking around with the long hair, hat, and glasses.
I don't think
Anna,
I did, but I do
Kevin,
remember.
Anna said she saw you. There's people in the chat room that saw your show.
Yeah, it first played in England, so I'm English as well. My mom is from England, and I got all these phone calls from family in England where it was playing, and I was like, really? But let me go back to my ghost story. The staff was just incredible. Chris Sanders, who is now a really good friend, just treated me like actually your whole staff did, but they took the actual story that we had. And
Chris is a brilliant young man.
He really is. And he's a good guy.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
I just left his office. He's one of my favorite employees.
Yeah, he really is a good guy. And the thing I have to express to everybody is when you submit a story to My Ghost Story, they don't chop it up, and make it into this, this terrible footage. They take the best of the best out of it. And they make this fantastic clip. We were so happy in what you showed. And I got to tell the audience, don't be afraid of it. Don't be scared of it. They make you comfortable. They put you through makeup. The producer sits there with you, right across from you, and actually walks you right through it.
It's my dream to do that.
Yeah, we were kind of nervous. We were kind of nervous doing it, but I'll tell you, they made it so easy. We left there. Dennis, who was in the show as well, we left there. We were like, we can't believe we just did this. Because it was really so easy. And the follow-up was fantastic. They kept in touch with us through the whole thing. And I got to tell you, you got a great show there. I just had to interject.
Thank you. It's very nice. It's very nice for you to say. I have a wonderful staff. I wish I could take all the credit. I can't. I have a wonderful, wonderful staff who works for me.
Well, I have
I have a very loyal staff as well because I try to manage through inspiration and.
That you do.
And it seems to be working.
Well, they don't have a bad thing to say about you. Let's put it that way. But I have a clip.
By the way, can I just say something because I want to bounce off of something you just said. There's a show on Sci-Fi called Truth or Fiction or Truth or Lie, something like that. And what they've been doing is they've been poaching My Ghost Story. They watch My Ghost Story, and they see stories like yours, and they get a hold of you, and it's called
Paranormal Fact or Fake.
Yeah, that's it. Fact or Fake. Paranormal Fact or Fake.
Yeah, but they tear it apart. That's what they do.
But that's what they do. They tear it apart. I just want to, and I just learned about this that they're actually poaching. They're watching our show and going after our storytellers.
Thanks, McKaylin.
I'll agree with you because I did get a phone call from him, Mark, just so you know.
Don't do it.
No,
they will rip it to pieces.
No.
It's not worth it.
No, I already said no.
But from now on, when I'm going to spend a little bit more time in the studio meeting the storytellers, or I'm going to have one of my senior producers do it. Tell everybody who comes to our show, hey, you're going to hear from that show. And they're going to rip you apart. They're going to make a fool of you. Don't do it. Anyways.
Well, I have a clip.
I have a nail in my craw about that. I just think it's a rotten thing to do.
Yeah, it is. And
well, it's already hard enough to step out and say what happened. I actually have an email in front of me of someone that was on My Ghost Story that said they didn't think anybody would ever understand what they had been through and how much it meant to them to be chosen and to be able to tell their story and to be understood. And I just want you to know what you're doing, and how much it means to people.
A couple of months ago, we were taping at the studio, and I walked into the control room where I can see the monitors of the of the studio of what's being shot, and I see a woman in a police uniform. And it's not that she's just a policeman. She's the chief of police of a small town in the Midwest. Can you imagine what she went through? Because she so believed her story, and it was great evidence, security camera footage. It's an amazing story that just fit with some piece of history that happened in that particular police station. Can you imagine being the chief of police and coming on and telling your story? And get this, her husband is also a police officer. We've had a number of policemen come on the show, and people in various walks of life who really had to come to a big decision to say, gee, do I want to share this story? Because there's some people who are going to think I'm nuts. But that's, in a way, part and parcel of the tension of this show. And I'm going to take you back to the very first point that I made, that these are personal stories. So when somebody's coming forward and revealing something that you'd think, why are they revealing that? That's what makes it so dramatic.
Well, I want to ask you something. I know that you have an analytical background. I saw in your bio about sea hunt, and I know that you have to have an analytical background because your background is in filmmaking, and so you have to analyze the best way of approaching things and scripting things and portraying things. So
actually, most of my life, most of my career, and I started very young. I started when I was 19 years old. I got my first job when I was 19. I have always done what's referred to these days as reality or actuality. That's what I like to call it, or alternative programming.
Nice.
I've done very few scripted shows. As you know from reading my bio, which your audience might want to know, I was born in England, but I grew up in Canada. And in Canada, that's all we did. That's all we had the money to do. So when I moved to America, I worked on game shows and I quit because I wanted to be a writer. I mean, I wanted to write TV movies and movies. But I ended up starving, and I eventually, by hook or by crook, became a network executive and sort of the in-house producer at MGMUA, which is where I was associated with Sea Hunt, which is it was a revival of a show that was done way back before I was born in the early 60s. The show was scripted, and we shot part of it in the Bahamas, and we shot part of it in Vancouver, Canada. And it's one of the few scripted shows I've ever worked on. But, I learned to scuba dive, and I'm petrified of the water. I'm terrible in the water. In order to help steer the scripts so they would be realistic, I had to learn how to do it myself. But
my dad was on Sea Hunt.
Which, the original?
Yep.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah. He wrestled alligators for Tarzan movies, and he was with Jacques Cousteau, and he did the whole glass bottom boats in Silver Springs and with Ross Allen and
wow.
All of that, yeah.
Still with us?
No, unfortunately, no. But
Yeah,
my son's right in his footsteps. He's doing a little wildlife show.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate all the nice things that your producer said about the show.
Well, it's not just him; it's everybody. But I was just wondering, do you feel like your past has affected dramatically the long-running history of this program? I believe that it has. I believe it's a lot, not just the people around you, but I believe that it has a lot to do with your vision. How do you feel about that? I
don't know. I don't like to talk about myself a lot. But
you don't want to pat yourself on the back, do you?
Well, I have a lot of people. I have a lot of people here whose backs need patting. I mean, I'm just very experienced. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, a long time. More than 30 years. I mean, I'm sitting in my office right now and looking at my glory wall, I call it, because I had the logo for most of the shows that I've been involved in front of me, and I look at it and they're in no particular order. They're just all on a big wall.
Well, we've got a surprise for you. We have the clip about you with the penny story.
Oh, right.
So we're going to show that.
Okay, I was going to say, why didn't I just tell the story?
Well, I thought we could go to break and let people watch it.
Oh, okay, great.
And when we come back, I have a question about it. So let's go to break. And
how long's the break?
Enjoy this. Kevin, how long is the clip?
2 minutes.
No, how long is the break?
2 minutes and 30 seconds is the clip, and I'll run one more after it. She'll have about a 6-minute break.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Perfect. Thanks.
All right.
Everybody stay tuned. Mark Phiilips will be back in about 6 minutes.
Ghost stories. I've seen a lot of bizarre and strange stories on the show, and I know that a lot of strange things have happened to a lot of the people who've worked on the show, including me. One incident that really stands out was last season when we were interviewing a woman by the name of Denise Schneider. Short form of the story is that her son was born in 1977 and subsequently passed away. Since the time of his death, 1977 pennies have appeared at monumental times in her life. And I was watching the story and I was thinking that I really connected to it because I'm constantly finding money. It's happened to me all my life, and there's a superstition that my dad passed on to me, which is to always pick it up and put it in my left pocket and leave it in my left pocket for a while and then slowly put it into a box and save it. As she was being interviewed, I went out to my car to get something, and on the way back in, I saw a penny. And I picked it up, and lo and behold, it was a 1977 penny. And I went in, and as soon as Denise got off stage, I took her aside and I said, "You're not going to believe this, but I just found a 1977 penny." And I gave it to her, and she flipped out. She completely flipped out. She wouldn't let go of me. It was an amazing experience. Ghost stories.
Something evil is in the house. It was terrifying.
We were just scared out of our mind.
It takes your breath away.
There's just spirits coming through this house all the time.
Are you here with us now?
Can somebody talk to me? Can they?
Did you see that? The chair flipped.
Something right up to me and then just stop.
I was absolutely horrified. It looks exactly like a person sitting in there, like they're hiding.
This is Lee Brown, and welcome back to Family Spirit. I'm here with Mark Phiilips, executive producer of My Ghost Story. You just saw a clip of my husband talking about the terrible haunted house that he lived in, the very violent haunting. And we've talked several times during my shows that people, places, like homes or whatever, and also items, tangible items can be haunted. So, Mark, I'm sure that there have been people that have come to your show, that have come to your studio, that have been haunted. And
sure.
Have you had? I mean, I know that we just showed the penny segment. Have you had anything else happen?
Well, many members of my staff have had things happen to them while out producing the show. And if your viewers go to the A&E website, the A&E bio website, I should say, they will find a whole bunch of those testimonials there.
Oh, wow.
One of the most interesting ones is Steve Bowler, who's one of our best, we call him shooters, but he's like a field producer. And he shot some material in Orange County, which is just south of Los Angeles. And when he was there, and he was shooting with his, big HD camera, and he got shoved and pushed, and he caught all this amazing stuff on camera.
Oh my gosh.
Instead of turning it into a segment of my ghost story, we made an exclusive story for the Bio website. You can find that at the Bio website. It's about the best story there is.
Bio website.
There's another one that we just did with a shooter that we use, and he's actually from North Carolina, and I believe the story takes place in South Carolina, where the same thing happened to him. He was pushed and shoved, and he caught all this stuff on camera. And that's if that's not on the Bio website now, it will be within the next week.
That's awesome.
But there's all kinds of other stories as well about editors and people who work on the show. I mean, when I did the first special, when you make a television show, you have what's referred to as an assistant editor, and the assistant editor is the person who takes all of this material that we shoot and digitizes it and puts it into the editing system. The editing system is called an AVID, A-V-I-D, AVID. And she quit. She couldn't take it. I mean, because she was here because usually these assistant editors, they work at night to manage the edit systems, and she's watching all the stuff, and she said, "I can't take this. I quit." Boom. And she was a wonderful assistant editor.
Wow.
So there are some people who can't kind of live with this material.
Wow. I was just wondering if you ever caught evidence while you were doing an episode with someone.
A number of times. And if you go to the A&E Bio website, you'll see testimonials to that effect.
That's so cool.
I mean, I thought it was interesting that you showed Ugly Me telling the Penny story.
Ugly you? Will you cut that out?
But there are way better stories. Not that there are better stories. I mean, it's a terrific story. It's a very emotional story. It is for me because, I mean, you don't really get it all there because we tried to cram it into 2.5 minutes. But, I've been finding money all my life, and it's something that I got from my father. My father taught me what to do, pick it up and spit on it and put it in your left pocket. Well, I don't spit on it anymore. I just put it in my left pocket. And to find this penny that's the same year while this woman is telling the story, it was quite an experience.
Yeah, I know that meant a lot to her, and things like that. Nothing happens by accident or just by happenstance. It doesn't. That was just too much of a coincidence.
Well, I mean, I've always said it could be a coincidence, but wow, what a coincidence!
Yeah, totally.
You were talking about objects before, and because I love this kind of stuff. In our new season, we have a story that's about a woman who is haunted by a porcelain doll, and it's a really, really interesting story. We also have a story about the ghost of a jazz legend who haunts a bar in Boston. This story where a wheelchair mysteriously moves on its own. And, of course, we have our, international stories coming up that go to England and Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Australia, Canada. And did I mention that the show has moved to Friday nights at 8 o'clock? I forget whether I did.
You got to hit it again. That's right.
I'm sorry, I got to hit it again.
Okay, what happens to all the evidence that the ghostly evidence? Is there any place where they're all gathered together where people can, like people that are researchers or scientists, like me, can go and see these? I know you refer us to the websites, but, I'm thinking like, remember when I told you I had the flu and there was a big marathon? When I want to watch them, I want to watch them all. I want to be up all night and watch them all.
Well,
is there a box set you can buy or something like that?
I'm sure that you can buy episodes of my ghost story on iTunes. Sometime soon, you will be able to buy DVDs, and box sets and all that. That's in the works.
No, it certainly.
Is there? And you bring up a very good point about the evidence. Is there a place where you can go and just see the evidence? There is not, because I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that yet. And no matter what I do, I have to get the network's approval. I'm sure they would give it to me, but because I thought that it might be interesting to write a book that features all of the evidence.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
I mean, I'm a writer by trade. It's what most TV producers are. That's television is a writer-producer's medium, and I just don't have the time.
Well, the chat room just blew up, so you hit a nerve. Rose said that would be a great show, and some of the other people are talking about items that, they're terrified of, porcelain dolls, dummies, things like that. So,
we've had a lot of those,
they would like to see these items. And
clowns and
mm-hmm,
I mean, I love tactile evidence. There's a great story that we have coming up that takes place in a bar, and you see on the security camera, you see this ashtray in the middle of the night, just flies off the bar and smashes to pieces on the floor. Well, the storyteller who saw this and knows that there's something going on at their bar, they brought, all the broken shards of glass with them and showed them to us on camera. That's amazing stuff. It's tactile evidence. I'm constantly pounding my researchers over the head. Get me tactile evidence. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I love that, what you brought up about that registry number. That's tactile evidence.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go talk to Christopher about the Hattie story and see where that stands.
All right. She was so sweet. I really enjoyed talking to her, and I had someone with me that was from the Opera House, and she was sitting right there. My daughter was with me, and we sat on the floor and just talked to her, and she was so happy. She never wanted to leave. She was happy right there, She told me the whole story, and here's the thing, I've got the whole story in the genealogy of the town, of what happened, and it all came out in the Ovulus, and it's all right there in the history. It was just amazing. I felt like I met a great friend. I want to go back and see her, but the hotel's up for sale. I'm terrified what's going to happen, I'm like, oh, just come live with me, don't worry about it. But I don't know, that wouldn't work. But anyway, she just seemed so sweet and so happy. I'm happy that after such a tragic life that she would be happy with her husband and her child, and their second chances. And hope.
There you go.
And hope, Are there any ghostly stories that have ended up...
Love never dies.
Love never dies, that's right. There's a lot of stories here in the South about the Civil War, of people, waiting for their soldiers to come home, and, I'm doing a lot of research on that, so I don't like thinking about that with my husband just coming back. He just came back from Iraq, so I'll steer clear of that one. I was going to ask you, are there any ghostly stories that have ended up on the cutting room floor that interest you, but just couldn't be aired for one reason or another?
Yes.
Maybe you could kind of give us a little tidbit of that no one else has really heard yet, or, just some little idea.
Well, there's one story. It's not on the cutting room floor. It's on the cutting room shelf.
Okay.
Because the story is about the ghost of somebody who was murdered.
Oh.
And the person who is accused of murdering this person is currently being prosecuted for the murder. And I can't show the story until he's one, convicted, or two, not convicted, and will sign off on it.
Right.
So it's a really wonderful story, and it's on hold. We have several stories that are on the cutting room floor because for one reason or another, whoever owned the location where the B-roll was shot held us up for ransom.
What?
For allowing us to shoot there. And I'm the kind of person that will not be held up for ransom.
I understand that.
I would just say,
yeah,
put it on the shelf. If we can get them to sign off, and sometimes these incidents come about because we're moving so quickly that somewhere along the line we haven't gotten our ducks in a row and gotten things signed in advance. But there are people who try to use us to. And yes, we're a successful show, but we're not that rich. Trust me.
Well, that was I have another question for you. Thinking about what the show does, do you do any follow-ups with the clients to see if their hauntings have returned or ceased or resolved, or do you have a part 2 of a story? If someone says, this is what's happened to me, and then something else happens.
You'll notice that at the end of every story, we do some text on screen, which we call closure, and that's usually a little bit of follow-up.
Right, right.
But that follow-up is really 2-3 months after they've taped the story in the studio. Have we gone further than that? No. Will we? We might. Well, I want to see how this thing develops and how long the network wants to do it.
Right. I was thinking about working with the demonologists that I work with. We have to follow up a lot.
Right.
To make sure that they're doing well and where their mindset is, and ask them to keep a journal.
That's part of my notion in doing a show on possession.
Mm-hmm.
I really I would make that part and parcel of the initial pitch. I mean, I'm still kind of circling around what the formula and the format would be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand what the formula and the format of Love Never Dies is. Because it's such a natural progression from my ghost story. But the possession show, I don't have my head completely around what it is. All I know is that the subject matter is fascinating, and I think that any network who knows what we do would say, Phiilips and the guys could do this.
It just takes observation before you finally diagnose whether, according to what I've been taught so far, whether you do a deliverance or an exorcism, and then follow up to make sure that that they don't need another.
I don't know. All I know is that we have done a few possession type stories on my ghost story.
Mm-hmm.
And they've all been very difficult. The participants have been sometimes very difficult to deal with. But somehow, I'll figure it out. I'm working on it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, you'll get your mind around it. It's getting with people that know the process, and then put that brilliant mind of yours in it, and it'll work out. Okay, here's I gotta, pat you on the back again. Come on. Okay, I have another question. I've been thinking, I think a lot. Do you ever plan to host an event or events for people to attend where they can meet professional paranormal investigators or psychics or demonologists or interviewers so that My Ghost Story can host a paranormal support group or conference for people that have had ghostly experiences and want to meet others like them, or just have a chance to tell their story or answer questions or have questions answered by someone that's qualified. Maybe it'd be a good way to
you know what? Off the top of my head, I have to say I would probably never, ever do that. And here's the reason why. I'm not a paranormal investigator. I am not someone who is out there to promote paranormal investigations. I'm just a stupid TV producer. I'm a storyteller. I'm a storyteller. That's what I do. I don't just do shows in the paranormal arena. I do all kinds of different shows. And there's a certain I don't want to sound like a prig, but that's what I do. I tell stories. That's what I've done all my career. And for me, it's all about good storytelling. And so I stay away from, being aligned with or promoting or having some kind of other interest in the paranormal world. To me, it's just storytelling. And if somebody has a good story to tell, no matter what the subject matter is, I'll find a way that it gets onto tape in the most professional and well-told manner. So, off the top of my head, I would say, that's really not for me. That's not what I do. What I do is make TV shows that are about good stories and good storytelling that people can learn something from, can get emotionally attached to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I do. You want them to be able to keep personal. Keep the privacy of what.
I have to always remain objective. I really do. I have to remain objective. That's part of being a good storyteller. You have to remain above the fray and know that you're just telling these people's stories. I mean, I don't want to get into. I mean, we vet them. Yeah, we vet them. I mean, off air, I told you and Kevin about something that happened with one of our storytellers, which I don't want to talk about on air. But you're.
No, of course. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Your viewers and listeners should know that we do our best to tell the stories that people come to us to tell, and we make sure that, to the best of our ability, what they're telling us really happened, and that the evidence that they have brought to us has veracity to it.
Right. Well, I've talked to a lot of people recently, that I knew were paranormal investigators that have been on my ghost story, but this one guy that I talked to was just an everyday guy, and he'd had some things happen, and he set up a camera and he caught some evidence, and this is his quote: "To this day, I find it very difficult to talk about what had happened in my apartment. I didn't tell but a few close friends what was going on in my home because I was scared how others would look at me or judge me. These people have the opportunity to tell their story on your show. So, what he was saying was, these people, your clients, have the opportunity to tell their story on your show. And he wanted to thank you for that opportunity because it gave him the chance to be with other people and tell his story all at the same time, so that he was able to get this out." And he was asking also, do you refer them to any people that can follow up with them if they need any additional help with their particular haunting? Do you have a Rolodex of people? Hey, call this guy.
No, that's another show. And
okay.
Would I do that? I don't know. I sort of have my hands full right now.
I understand.
But
I
you
didn't
know
know if
what?
you
That
went to
goes back to my
Ghostbusters,
story earlier of the woman police chief. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's true. So when is the show going to be?
Oh, did I tell you? It's now my ghost story moved to Friday nights on A&E Bio at 8 o'clock. It's at 8 o'clock Eastern time, and it basically runs like 3 or 4 times on a Friday night. Especially if you're on the West Coast, you know. Now it's on at 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 11. I mean, it's crazy.
We've seen so many changes in paranormal television lately. I mean, so many changes. People coming, going, new shows, old shows changing, things like that. What direction do you see paranormal TV heading? I mean, what do you think? You've taken over Fridays, so I know you see that it's going to be growing. But
well, I mean, I think that it's a genre that is here to stay. I think it'll be around for many years to come. And alternative and reality television in the cable world, you know, it breaks down into a lot of different genres, and they sort of ebb and flow. But nothing, you know, nothing helps create more good shows or more new shows than a show in any genre that works.
True.
So to that effect, I think that there will be more paranormal shows. I mean, I keep hearing about all kinds of them. I mean, I'd like to do maybe a couple more of them, but you know, I'm into other arenas as well. I mean, I just shot a pilot in your neck of the woods in South Carolina on a show about pay lakes. You know what a pay lake is, right?
I'm sorry.
A pay lake.
No.
A pay lake is
stupid tonight.
It's a whole southern thing. It's very interesting. There are a whole lot of
stupid tonight. I'm sorry.
There are a whole lot of lakes, especially in the South.
Right.
That are privately owned.
Right.
And they charge and they stock them with fish.
Oh, pay lakes. Yes. Okay.
And people come to fish there, and the fish are tagged in certain ways, and if you catch certain fish with a certain tag, or a certain length or a certain weight, there's all kinds of different ways to do it. You win money. It's like a fishing casino. It's fascinating. And I'm developing this for one of the cable networks.
That'll be fun.
It's probably going to go. It's the tape I've seen. It's hilarious.
Okay, now where is this lake?
My neck of the woods, right?
Well, we did 4 of them. One in South Carolina, one in Missouri, one in Kentucky, and one in West Virginia.
Looks like I got to go on a road trip.
But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and a lot of like big, funny characters who own the lakes and the people who go and fish there. And people try to cheat, and I mean, it's like a casino. It's crazy. So I mean, I'm not just into I'm not just into ghost stuff. I'm into all kinds of different shows. Though I would like to develop a show about battlefields and the ghosts at battlefids.
Oh my gosh! Now you're talking my story.
I've seen so many. We've had a number of stories on our show, and the evidence is really compelling, and the history is so fascinating. I mean, I could never get Bio to do it because, my ghost story is like right on the nose for Bio, because it's all about personal stories. That's what they love. Mm-hmm. And the stories at battlefields aren't really about personal stories. They're more about things and history. So there's another. I'll probably take it to another network and make it a really different approach. But I'm a history buff myself.
I hear you.
And I would love to do something like that. As a producer, and Kevin, I'm sure you understand this. When you find a subject matter that you're really personally interested in, it makes the job, which is enjoyable anyhow, even more enjoyable, because you're feeding that personal interest that you have.
Yeah, makes your muse work even better.
There you go. See, you said it way better than I could ever have.
One of the investigators in my group is a Civil War reenactment participator, and he dresses as Wade Hampton. And we do investigations when they do their reenactments, and it triggers so much. I mean, you can walk along and see a campfire, and then when you walk to the campfire, by the time you get there, it's not there.
Wow, do you have that on tape? You got any evidence? You got any evidence on that? I want to do that story. That's a great story.
Oh, it's intense. It's so intense, and we're doing a lot of that type thing right now, working towards the reenactment.
Yeah, what battlefield did that happen in?
It was in Aiken, South Carolina.
Right.
That happened in near St. Thaddeus Cemetery, near the battleground there.
Because there are so many,
Uh-huh.
There are so many battlefields, not just in America, but also in England and across Europe.
I had something happen on Normandy Beach. I heard voices, and when I went into where the guns were in the back of the hills, and I saw a leg walking by, and I thought somebody was back there where I was, and I kept trying to chase him, and I came out, and there was nobody there.
Yeah, my father was...
It was time to go. I was still kind of, green. It was back in 86, so...
Yeah, my father was in the Normandy invasion. My father was a flight engineer in the bombers that towed the gliders in.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, my father was a flight engineer in the bomber command in the RAF, the Royal Air Force.
Man, oh man. Well, I've got to ask you. You've got your mind is never in a box. I can tell you think out of the box. So I'm going to ask you an odd question here. Do you have a bucket list?
Actually, my mind always thinks outside of the cube.
Yeah, that's right. Do you have a bucket list of things you want to accomplish with your shows or your personal goals in life? And that's a personal question. I'm just curious. You're a pretty fascinating fella.
I'd like to meet a nice lady in my life. I'd like my band to play at least once a week.
What do you play?
I play guitar.
No way. You play acoustic or electric or bass or what?
I play acoustic and electric.
So do I, and I play bass.
I also play a little baritone. I mean, I have a bass guitar. I don't, because we have a jam room here at the office. In fact, when this interview's over, there's 4 of us who are going to get together. We're going to play for about 2 or 3 hours.
Oh man, I wish I could see that. That sounds like fun. What do you guys play? Jazz or?
No, oh God, no, rock and roll.
Oh, I hear you. Are you guys metalheads?
No, not metalheads. We like classic rock, and we like taking 60s British invasion, sort of punking it up. We play a lot of different stuff.
Cool.
We're basically into rock and roll. So, personal, you asked me this question about a bucket list.
Yeah.
My bucket list has less to do with television than it does to do with other things in my life that I would like to pull together. television will always be there for me. I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years, so
30 years, yeah.
I think about it in my sleep, and I come in here I come in here every day and start working on things that I'm developing, and I oversee my ghost story, but I have very good people who carry the majority of the load now, because it's up to me to always be bringing in new shows.
Right.
Like Pay Lakes.
Pay Lakes. I had no idea what you were trying to say.
Fish stinks, but cash is king.
I'm there,
Pay Lake.
I'm there at Pay Lakes. Are you kidding? I'm there.
I was getting peg leg pirate. My southern my southern brain was not working on that one.
Brings the joy to fishing back again.
You have a lovely accent, I think. I love people from the South. I think people from the South are great.
Have you ever had sweet tea?
Oh, yes.
How about grits?
And I can't eat grits because I can't eat starch, but I have had them in the past, and they're wonderful stuff. But I can't eat it. But I love sweet tea. You
know what grits stands for?
Hang on. I do know. Hang on. Oh, come on. Oh, darn it. No, because I developed the show about 4 Southern auctioneers, and they were like really from the South, and he had this phrase about what grits meant. And
right. You're gonna get it.
Right. Tell me, just because your audience needs to know more than I need to prove that I know everything.
Girls raised in the South.
Oh, no, that's not what he said.
Uh-oh. Was he vulgar? No. He wasn't.
No, he had another take for that acronym.
Uh-oh. Might have to look him up, see what he's saying. He's not trashing us out down here, is he?
I think it was gentlemen raised in the South, something like that.
Oh, gentlemen. No, it's girls. Well, do you have any other projects or things that you would like to talk about? When is the show going to be again?
Oh, did I tell you? It's going to be on Friday nights now. It's the tentpole show on Friday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern Time.
Friday night.
On A&E Bio. And if indeed you have a story that you want to send us, go to the A&E Bio website, search out my ghost story, and there's a link there that will lead you to where you can submit a story. Or you can submit it directly at myghoststory@mppt.tv.
It's in the chat room, ladies and gentlemen, so please just look in the chat room for the website address and the email address. I know several of you have shown interest talking about the evidence that you've got. Please scroll down and you'll see all that information and send it in. Don't hesitate. And mention that you heard Mark Phiilips on Family Spirit. I appreciate it very much. We have had a great night. I have really enjoyed having you. It was
great talking to you. My ear hurts.
Sorry.
We've been at this for 2 hours.
We have been at this for 2 hours. I could let you go early if you want. You tired?
No, not at all. No. This is fun. It's fun. What else can I tell you?
Well, I was just thinking about the process of how people submit the stories and then they contact you, and then the screening process, and then they're polished and then they go through your office, and then they, like Kevin was describing, how they sit there and they are actually they go step by step through everything. So I just wanted to remind everyone that's in the chat room or that is listening. I know that there's thousands out there that's listening. Please don't hesitate. If you have never been on television before, we've discussed this. You can watch a rerun. They walk you step by step through explaining your story. The main thing is that you give them evidence. That's the main thing, right, Mark? That they have the evidence and some sort of documentation of what they've experienced and eyewitness, things like that.
And when they come to the studio, if they want to have a beer, we'll buy them the best beer in town.
All right.
If that makes them...
makes them chill out.
Right, that makes them feel a little more relaxed.
Have you ever thought about doing a movie?
No, I'm not in the movie business. I'm in the TV business.
TV business?
Yeah, I'm in the TV business.
Just thought that it would be a great...
They're two completely different businesses.
Oh, I can imagine.
The movie business is a director's medium, and television is a writer-producer's medium. And I'm not a director. I have directed, but it's not what I do.
Because I was just wondering, because, you've got so many stories that stand out significantly. If you could string them together and behind the scenes of how you set it up, or even do a bio of how Ghost Story came to be, and then, certain stories.
Yeah, I'm not sure people care.
Oh,
honestly, I'm not sure. I'm not sure people care. It's the show is what it is, and it's very successful. And I just want the network to keep ordering more, so I can put my daughter through college.
So silly. Well, it's true. College costs, doesn't it?
College can get very expensive.
I know. Well, I want to remind everyone that this show has been recorded and it will run again. Thank you, everyone, for coming to the show tonight. I would like to thank the executive producer of my ghost story, Mark Phiilips, for being with us tonight. You can always catch our show by listening on Spreaker. Oh, thank you. A lot of the people that are in the chat room are saying, well done. It's an amazing show. Thank you for being with us. A lot of people are saying they're going to submit their evidence. Your show rocks. Things like that. So I'm really glad that you were on the show. And
I'm glad you had me. It was wonderful. Thank you.
And Ann says, thank you. Fun. And thanks for being with us. Please feel free to watch the show again, and you also have the websites and the email to submit your evidence.